The first glance. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind where the air felt like it was holding its breath. Maya had always been fond of moments like these, when time seemed to slow down and everything felt more vivid. The park was quiet, save for the distant chatter of children and the gentle rustling of trees swaying in the breeze. She had taken to sitting on her favourite bench, one that overlooked the small pond at the edge of the park. It was a place where she could think, or sometimes do nothing at all. On this particular afternoon, she was reading a book. The pages turned quietly, her eyes following the words, but her mind wasn't fully absorbed in the text. She was distracted, not by anything in particular, but by the peacefulness around her. It was when she looked up from her book that she saw him. He was walking slowly, as if he too was savouring the serenity of the day. His brown hair was tousled by the wind, his jeans a bit too big, and his shoes slightly worn from what looked like a lot of use. He wasn't doing anything special, just strolling along the pathway that cut through the park, but there was something about him, something that caught Maya's attention immediately. Her heart skipped a beat, not because of anything dramatic or over the top, but simply because she felt it. A connection, almost as if the world around them had suddenly shrunk to just the two of them. He wasn't particularly striking, not in the way the movies portrayed love at first sight, but there was an undeniable pull. His eyes, soft and deep, seemed to meet hers for just a second as he passed. That brief moment felt like it stretched on for an eternity. Maya quickly looked down at her book, heart racing, suddenly feeling self-conscious. Was it too much? Was she imagining things? She shook her head, trying to push the feeling away. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop thinking about him. She had always believed in love, in those rare moments when everything clicked into place, when fate brought two people together. But she never thought she would experience it. Not like this, not so unexpectedly. Over the next few days, Maya found herself returning to the park, each time with a small hope in her heart. Would he be there again? Would their paths cross once more? And each time she sat on the same bench, pretending to read her book, but always keeping an eye on the path that ran by the pond. It wasn't until the fourth day that she saw him again. This time she didn't turn away so quickly. Instead, she watched as he walked past her, slower than before. He had his headphones in, the wires trailing down from his ears, his gaze distant. Maya wasn't sure why, but something urged her to speak, to break the silence between them. "Hey," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, startled for a moment, then smiled. It was a small smile, but it reached his eyes, and in that moment, everything about Maya's world seemed to shift. "Hi," he replied, taking out his headphones. "I don't think I've seen you here before." Maya's heart fluttered. "I come here often. I like to read." "I get that," he said, glancing at her book. "What's that you're reading?" It was a simple question, but it was the beginning of something more. They talked for a few minutes, about books, about music, about how life seemed to slow down in the park. His name was Leo, and he was new to the area. He worked at a small cafe nearby, a place Maya had walked by many times but never had the chance to enter. They parted ways with a brief but genuine exchange of smiles. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Maya returned to the park almost every day, hoping to see him again, to talk to him some more. She learned that Leo had a kind heart, a sense of humour that made her laugh even on her worst days, and an easygoing nature that made her feel comfortable. They exchanged numbers one day, and soon after, texts became the thread that connected them through the days and nights. Every conversation, whether in person or over text, felt easy. It was as if they had always known each other, as if they were meant to meet in that park on that quiet afternoon. And then, one evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Leo stood before her again. This time, there were no distractions, no one else in the park, just the two of them standing in the fading light. "Maya," he said softly, his voice almost hesitant, I know this sounds crazy, but I think I've fallen for you. I don't know what it is about you, but I can't stop thinking about you. Her heart swelled in her chest, and without thinking, she reached for his hand. Leo, I think I feel the same way. In that moment, they both knew. It wasn't about the grand gestures or the fireworks. It wasn't even about the first glance. It was about the connection, the kind that starts with something simple, something quiet, and grows into something unspoken but real. Sometimes love isn't dramatic.